On today's show, the Capitals fall to the Flames, but Alex Ovechkin scores yet another goal. So that's a victory, right?
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about Alex Ovechkin, and he has quite a history with the different netminders in the NHL. He seems to be scoring on more and more of them and knocking down different netminders that he hasn't scored on yet. But last night, Alex Ovechkin has quite a history with Vladar as well. I'll talk about that a bit later. We'll talk about mature Alex Ovechkin. It seemed like in his younger days, he was a showboat. It was all about him. While the center Nick Backstrom was the guy that ate a steady diet of humble pie, Alex Ovechkin liked to live in the limelight. But what we're seeing now with Alex Ovechkin at 39 is more of a mature Ovi. I'll talk about that. But just to get it going here, like I've said before, all good things must come to an end as the Capitals fall to the Flames last night by a score of 3-1. But like I said off the top, the intro there, Alex Ovechkin scores another goal. So yet one goal closer to the great one, Wayne Gretzky. So it is a victory in a lot of ways. In all things considered, the Capitals are still sitting in a good position. However, you take a look at the standings, the Capitals 84 points. Now the Jets 85. So it, as far as wanting to be the best of the best in the NHL, it is going to be a tight race between the Caps and the Jets. But all things considered, the Capitals still riding very high in the Eastern Conference and more specifically in the Metro, where it really matters the most. But let's dig into the game last night. And the one thing that was apparent in the first period for sure is that the Flames were greatly out shooting the Capitals. And the frustration on Spencer Carberry's face was evident. The look on his face of what is going on. The first goal the Caps gave up was the one that kind of almost looked like a forward kicking motion, but they didn't even want to look at it. They were talking to the guys upstairs and saying, hey, should we challenge this? And they decided no. But to me and Alan May and the different people watching the broadcast, it did appear that there was a slight kicking motion, but that is rather here nor there. But those negative bounces sometimes can impact the game. And then you take a look at the second goal of the game as well, as they were just able to pass it down past the Capitals defender, and it was pretty much a slam dunk for the Flames. So all things considered, giving credit where credit is due, a good Flames team. And kind of the topic of the last show I was talking about is this team battle tested, and a team like the Flames, which on paper the Capitals should be exponentially better than, well, they lost 3-1. So that is quite something. Now, you take a look at the streak here and what the Capitals have been able to do. The Capitals, they faced a tough loss at home, ending their impressive point streak at Cap One. That streak had been intact all the way back since before Thanksgiving, if you take a look at it. But the Flames managed to beat the Capitals 3-1. And how did they get it done? It wasn't an eked-in victory. It wasn't this or that. It was a regulation loss. And, well, you take a look at what the Flames did. The Flames blocked 29 shot attempts tonight, including 7 by Ovechkin. Ovi had 18 shot attempts in the game, 5 on net, 7 blocked shots, and 6 missed on the net. So you take a look at it, that is ultimately why they lost the game. Alex Ovechkin, he was doing what he was supposed to do. He was getting his shots in there. But you take a look at the Flames; they knew what to do. They knew how to contain him for the most part. Even though he was getting the shots in, they were able to put a bit of a fence around Ovechkin, as I think he could have been far more lethal. Now, Carberry, like I said, he was not happy about the game at all. He said, quote, "It was terrible. The first period was as bad a period as we've played all year. So we dug ourselves a hole," unquote. And that's Spencer Carberry. He's got to be riding a high right now, as he is coaching at the time. It was the best team in the NHL and still one of the best teams in the NHL. That I think there's a lot of pride there. And even if the Capitals, even if they give up one goal, he looks so irritated. So his success and where he has the bar set for team success is very high. And like I said, it all started in the first period. And it was kind of that lucky bounce, like I said, by the Flames. But sometimes if you can vacuum up that momentum from a lucky bounce, then that is what will happen. The Flames clearly dominated in the first period, outshooting the Caps 15-5. So, like I talk about, complacency will get you nowhere. Before you're, ready to pat yourself on the back and saying we're the best in the league, all of a sudden a team like the Flames comes to town and things can look different. Now, a pivotal moment came after Martin Pospisil's first goal for Calgary, which deflected off his skate and past goalie Logan Thompson. And that's what it's all about. That's what I was talking about, that deflection. There were some controversial moments with the discussions about a potential kicking motion, but the goal counted, a good goal. I hate that, but putting the Capitals in a difficult spot. But, watching the game, and Joe B and Alan May were talking about it, is the Capitals are no stranger to being in that position to be down by a goal or two. And, taking a look at what they've done this year, they've found a way to rally, but it wasn't the Capitals' night. Things got worse. Matt Coronado scored on a breakaway. That was the one I was referencing, behind the Capitals defense, extending Calgary's lead to 2-0. Now, I'm not going to say that I would change a whole lot about what the Capitals defense did. They were doing what they do. They were trying to keep the puck back, or puck in rather, and they just shot it over. And, it was a lucky bounce in a lot of ways for the Flames. But a competitive second period. I think that Spencer Carberry read his team the riot act and said, hey, you guys got to come out there better than what you did in the first period. That what we saw in the first period wasn't enough. And even though Logan Thompson, who was a stranger to losing in regulation, we could very well lose this game. The second period brought a more competitive team. They really gathered themselves and came out with grit, outshooting Calgary 12-3 in the second period. So there was that pushback. It was just that Vladar, and it was the Flames that were dialed in. Unfortunately, Flames goalie Dan Vladar was an absolute brick wall, turning away multiple attempts. And you take a look at the Flames historically, they have been a team that has wandered in the wilderness for a while, but definitely a better Flames team than I recall in recent memory. I'm talking, as far as what we've seen from the Flames in total. But like I said, it is all about Alex Ovechkin. In a lot of ways, if he scores a goal, he is one goal closer to Gretzky. And to me, if your team can't win, that's as good as a win kind of as you're going to get. In the third period, the Caps continue to push. That's that pushback, and it was none other than the great eight who netted a power play goal, bringing the score to 2-1. There was a feeling in the air. Are they going to do it again? Are they going to turn this game around yet? But that was a historic moment, as it marked Ovechkin's 30th goal of the season and 19th consecutive season with at least 30 goals, an NHL record for a player age 39 or older, 19 seasons with 30 goals. So quite an accomplishment for Alex Ovechkin, as he is aging like a fine wine, like I've said, and continues to get that much better. Now he's just sitting at 883, just 12 away from tying Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. So these people that are trying to draw it up that we think it's going to happen here or there, we don't know. I mean, Ovi's going on a heater right now. I mean, he could very well get it done much sooner than any of us think. Initially it was Supposed to be against the Canes in April, but now they're saying it could be more towards the beginning of April. I guess it's ultimately up to the grade 8. But the excitement of Ovechkin scoring that goal was short-lived, as even with Ovi's goal giving them a spark, they couldn't keep that momentum going, and Jonathan Huberdeau sealed the deal with a late goal for Calgary, ending the game 3-1. It was almost like the Capitals were looking at themselves thinking, what do we do here? We're not used to losing here. I mean, this is foreign territory for us. But that was the case for the Capitals. They fell short, and a learning lesson. I think to a certain extent, you learn more from your losses than you do from your wins. And if the Capitals can learn anything, it's about to take your opponent serious and not to be too caught up on yourself thinking that you're too good, because a sneaky team like the Flames can come into town and steal your thunder. Like Frank Saravalli said, that is the recency bias with the Capitals, that it was a coin flip. If the Capitals faced the Hurricanes, if they faced the Panthers or the Maple Leafs in a series of games, that it's a coin toss. On paper, it seems like the Capitals should be a slam dunk. But if we learned anything last night, that even these teams that are on paper aren't nearly as good as the Capitals as far as points are concerned, can definitely steal a game, steal a series, and steal the Capitals' thunder. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the mature Alex Ovechkin. As you take a look at him, like I said, in his younger day, a bit more of a showboat, but at 39 years old, a father, a husband, more of a mature Alex Ovechkin. I'll break it all down straight ahead. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast, easy? Just use Indeed when it comes to hiring. Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Now, listen, I'm involved with that at work as well. The hiring, the firing, people turning in paper applications and telling people you didn't get the job. Take the confusion out of hiring with Indeed. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Capitals podcasts. Terms and conditions apply. Indeed is all you need. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in this next segment here, we're talking about the more mature Alex Ovechkin. That he is heading into the twilight of his NHL career, ostensibly, as he has a year and change under contract. And there's been a lot of questions, just a fever pitch. I mean, I get a lot of questions about Ovechkin, and I'm just a podcast host. I can only imagine what the team and what the grade 8 faces alone that, when he's asked about it, he is not the guy that is like, yes, it's all me. Maybe something you would have seen from Alex Ovechkin in his younger day. He is more, ready to say it's more about team success. And ultimately, it is team success. You take a look at what Alex Ovechkin has assembled this year, and the question remains, would he have been able to do it if Nick Backstrom was in okay health, or TJ Oshie, or the bigger picture, had the Capitals not made the big acquisitions they did in the offseason? That Brian McClellan assembled an amazing roster this year that, to be clear here, I think Alex Ovechkin would have scored a lot of goals, but a lot of credit goes to, one, Dylan Strome, but also the other players on the team getting done. So what we're going to do here next, we're going to dig into the latest with Alex Ovechkin and his historic season. Despite the Capitals' recent 3-1 loss to the Flames, Ovechkin managed to add yet another goal to his illustrious career, marking his 19th season of scoring 30 or more goals. Again, quite stunning what Alex Ovechkin has been able to assemble this year. And, like I say, it's easy sometimes, I think, to just say, pat yourself on the back, go, hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. But it has been a team success. Now, what a feat, especially considering he's been in the league for 20 years now. So he has been consistent throughout the duration of his career. And talking about Alex Ovechkin and chasing history, despite what happens this season, of course, I hope the Capitals make it to the playoffs. Of course, I hope they win a Stanley Cup. But bigger than that, or I think almost equally as big, if not bigger, I guess, would be Alex Ovechkin chasing history, chasing down Wayne Gretzky. Ovechkin is also just 3 points shy of becoming the 10th player in the NHL history to hit the 1,600 career points milestone. That is quite an illustrious category to be a part of, that putting up those kind of numbers, 30 goals, those kind of things on a consistent basis, that is something to hang your hat on. And, despite, some of those being empty netters, some of those, like if you ask Alex Ovechkin, you put the skates out there, you try to score goals, even on an empty netter. It is not as easy as it appears. And one of the biggest storylines this season, of course, has been the pursuit of Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal record. As it stands, he's only 12 goals away from surpassing Gretzky. Can you believe it? We're here already. It could happen. It feels like, I don't know, a week or so from now. It seems like 2 weeks from now, I could be talking to you about Alex Ovechkin doing it. If he gets a hat trick here or there. Anyway, and fans are on the edge of their seats watching this unfold. Just the other night, Ovechkin thrilled the home crowd with a power play goal that showcased his legendary scoring prowess. So you take a look at the game against the Flames. He showed up to play. He was generating shots going into the third period. He already had 10 shots. He did what he could do. Again, I feel like the Flames really were prepared for the Great Eight. But to get to the topic of this segment here is the humility and team spirit, and ultimately the maturation of Alex Ovechkin. After the game, he acknowledged his teammates, saying, quote, "My line mates and teammates do a pretty good job of finding me out there. I just have to finish it up," unquote. And, that's, again, a bit of humble pie there. That's a lot of humble pie, that I think you could put a different player in that same position that Ovechkin. But it is the hockey IQ. It is the history. It is the ability to see the ice, and just a great shot that has put him in the position that he's in. It's a testament to the team spirit that drives the franchise. And even head coach Spencer Carberry weighed in, praising Ovechkin for his ability to score in clutch moments. He did that in the third period. That could have been the positive momentum that set the Capitals in motion. It wasn't to be, but Alex Ovechkin continues to deliver. Like I say, the proof is in the pudding. 30-goal seasons, and so close to catching the great one, Wayne Gretzky. But let's not overlook the fact that Ovi's having such an incredible season after coming back from a broken fibula that kept him sidelined for 5 weeks. That's the truth here, that had he not faced that injury, I think there is a distinct possibility that he would have already caught and passed Wayne Gretzky. And this, you take a look at it, quite a bit different than last season. Last season started off the first half of the season, his slowest start to the season as far as the goal scoring department is concerned, turned it on in the second half of the season, and this season hit the ground running even after coming back from a major injury. Impressive is the fact he scored 4 goals in his first 5 games back. Talk about resilience from Alex Ovechkin, that, make no mistake, he is one of the greatest and will be the greatest goal scorer of all time. And not even that, just one of the greatest, if not the greatest hockey player of all time. And we have him playing on this team. And the great one, Wayne Gretzky himself, of course, singing his praises, saying, quote, "It's just a matter of time, whether it's late this year, early next year, whatever. I mean, he's a great player. He's a great goal scorer," unquote. And Wayne Gretzky, I will say, also a very gracious man, a guy that has held on to that record for quite some time. But elite company. And again, I think it will happen in April, here soon, if not sooner. Again, these projections are all over the place. It's not like predicting a thunderstorm that you can kind of see it coming here. All of a sudden, he scores a hat trick or 2 goals in this game and 2 goals in the other game. And, all of a sudden, we're right on top of it, right? So this Alex Ovechkin that we see this season, his career is nothing short of spectacular, stellar, what he has been able to put up. And I think it's going to happen this year. And like I said, it's all about the team surrounding him. It's all about Spencer Carberry, that it was the making of a perfect storm for Alex Ovechkin at the age of 39 to do the unthinkable, catch the great one, and pass Wayne Gretzky. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Alex Ovechkin's history with Vladar. Like I talked about, playing in the league as long as he has faced a lot of different netminders, but he has a history against Vladar. I'll break it all down next. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. All right, in this next segment here, we're talking about the history of Alex Ovechkin facing, well, a lot of different netminders, but in this episode, or in this segment in particular, we're going to talk about the history and the thoughts of Dan Vladar, a name that's familiar around the NHL, but really was huge, instrumental in the Calgary Flames defeat of the Capitals last night. And it's important to highlight the unique history of Ovechkin and Vladar. Interestingly, Vladar has been a part of two significant moments in Ovi's career. And, you take a look at it, to even be the guy on the ice, even if it's not a good thing, like I gave up a goal, at this point, with how close Alex Ovechkin is to catching Gretzky, if you could be even one of the netminders that let a goal in, still kind of exciting in a weird way, but I think it is. Ovechkin scored his first career goal against Dan Vladar back in October of 2021. And during a 2-goal performance in March 2022, he tied Jaromir Jagr for the third most goals in NHL history while playing games in the same arena. So those are the funny statistics that I talk about oftentimes in the show, that Alex Ovechkin loves playing and plays well against this team and against that team. And it's not just Ovechkin. Different players have success against certain teams, certain arenas, certain head coaches, that sometimes those advanced analytics are interesting and questionable, even though it's not easy to understand. This ongoing rivalry adds a special layer to their encounters on the ice and highlights the significance of Ovechkin's milestones, especially against a goaltender like Vladar. We take a look at 883, fast forward to the latest match against the Flames. Ovechkin further solidified his legacy by scoring 883 against Vladar. This goal makes him just 12 goals shy of surpassing Wayne Gretzky. Again, I think that it's a good thing. Vladar is happy that the Flames won. It's another win on his record. And also in another way, it's kind of a cool moment from him, even though it's not so cool since he allowed a goal, that he was one of the netminders that allowed a goal on what is going to be at some point the greatest goal scorer of all time. And Ovechkin was the sole scorer for the Capitals against the Flames, ultimately ending in disappointment for the Capitals. Again, you're not going to win them all. And, as a Capitals fan this year, the 24-25 season, losing in regulation is, we're not too familiar with that. There are some losses, but the Capitals are definitely used to winning more games than they are losing this year. Now, as far as the perspective of the man himself, Vladar had a remarkable game despite conceding the goal to Ovechkin post-game. He reflected on the experience, noting, quote, "It's going to be a story for my kids that a player like that scored on me, but obviously in that moment, you don't appreciate it," unquote. Of course. But still, there's probably a photo that's somewhere. If I was Dan Vladar right now, I would have a picture of that and hang it on a wall. That, it's not my most proud moment, but in a lot of ways, it's pretty cool that I was on the ice when Ovechkin, the greatest goal scorer of some point, did it. So quite something for Dan Vladar. Ended up picking up the win anyway. Now, Ovechkin's milestone goal came in the third period during the PP after drawing a slashing penalty from Jonathan Huberdeau. He launched one of his notorious sharp one-timers just 20 seconds into the advantage. So the power play thriving with Alex Ovechkin on the ice, and quite something what he was able to accomplish. And what did it do? Well, it caught Dan Vladar off guard. He said, quote, "I was cheating a little bit, but there is a reason why he has so many goals like that," unquote. That you know it's coming, you know where it's going to be coming from most of the time, but most NHL netminders can do nothing to stop it. I think back to a lot of different goalies that he's faced in the rivalry that goes back and forth. And I'm thinking here specifically a little bit off topic here about Marc-Andre Fleury and the banter that goes on back and forth over the years that they played against each other. Like if Marc-Andre Fleury makes a big save, he will give it to Alex Ovechkin, or Alex Ovechkin would say to him, "I'm going to get you next time." That being in the league as long as Alex Ovechkin has been, that there is a history with these netminders. But respect from the Flames organization, the respect for Ovechkin transcends the rivalry, as his accomplishments are acknowledged throughout the league, including by the Flames players. Rookie Matt Coronado, who netted the game winner for Calgary, recognized Ovechkin, saying, quote, "You've got to eat a few. That's just the way the game went," unquote. Defenseman Rasmus Anderson echoed a similar sentiment about the game as well, saying, "Wow, what an amazing player," unquote. So what's next for the Capitals? They ultimately have to brush off the defeat. They have to just be happy that Ovi got yet another goal as the Capitals prepare to face the St. Louis Blues this Thursday. Ovechkin's quest for history continues. Will the St. Louis Blues be the next victim to the Great Eight? That's what we're hoping for. Maybe two, or maybe a hat trick. Listen, I am not afraid to dream up big at this point, but you take a look at the game last night. It wasn't the Capitals' night. Spencer Carberry echoed that as much. And the team, they acknowledged the loss. They didn't try to say it was, if it had not been for this or that, that we had won the game. They lost the game fair and square. And they just have to brush it off and get ready for their next opponent, in this case, the St. Louis Blues. Because, listen, if you sit there and dwell and think about what went wrong in this game, you're not going to be ready for the next game. All things considered, Capitals are still playing very well. They are still the second best team in all of the National Hockey League. Let's not get too down in the dumps here. The Capitals are still riding high. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL, as they have you covered all around the NHL 5 days a week, wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.